If you somehow missed the biggest project in Middle-earth YouTube history, here's a quick refresher. In 2019, the world gets shut down, and to keep my local community connected, I launched a massive isolation crafting project to build a true-scale Minas Tirith gaming board. After releasing some guides and templates on Zorpazorp, people from all over the world jumped on board, sending walls, towers, orcs, soldiers of Gondor, siege towers, and suddenly, as we furiously laid the tracks before the moving train, a whole bunch of my fellow YouTubers got roped on board to help build Tubertown, the first 100% complete suburb of Minas Tirith. After the success of the first board, I could not resist lighting the beacons one final time to summon a new fellowship of YouTubers to finally finish this absolutely mega Minas Tirith layout. This journey began over 3 years ago, and now today, at long last, the big reveal is here. Now, before we dive into showing off all the amazing creations from my fellow YouTubers, let's have a look at the city that they'll be inhabiting. In the last Tubertown board, we built the beginnings of Lamprite Street, a massive section of Minas Tirith encompassing the inner and outer ring walls of the first and second level, the second gatehouse, and the streets of Minas Tirith winding their way down Mount Mindolluin. Focusing on getting this crazy landscape as screen accurate as possible whilst keeping it playable has been a real challenge, especially with the staggeringly high walls and the big decrease in elevation for our roads to traverse. The last board had some seriously difficult landforming to get the road to start angling down from the height of the second level, and in this board we are continuing Lamprite Street down through the trading and commerce sector of the city until we reach ground level, so that all subsequent boards can be nice, simple, flat pieces. I started off, of course, with our foundation. Now, we've got another 6 buildings joining the project today, so we are going to need another full 5 by 4 foot board, so I made that in 2 uneven halves using a masonite baseboard and then a sheet of structural expanded poly to give us a firm base layer to build on. Our first port of call is to establish how the 2 roads from the original Tubertown board join to the new city suburb, and up first is the main thoroughfare of Lamprite Street itself, which slopes down between the Broadsword Wargaming Blacksmith and the MS Paint's Glassblowers Workshop to meet the edge of the board. As I started this build, while the amazing creations from my compatriots were still in the post, I got me to send them their dimensions so I could start building ahead of time using a little footprint that I drew up on foam card, and started playing with layout ideas, and soon realized that I wanted to have a nice elevated terrace where Lamprite Street joins this board. This will help with extra playability as it decreases the length of continuous slope on the street, and it means we can create a little bit of extra height for one of our smaller buildings to help get that awesome rooftops poking up above the wall look. To celebrate this huge collaboration, we're giving away a copy of the new Mines of Moria set. All you have to do is like this video, subscribe, and comment below which of my fellow crafters' buildings is your favorite using the keyword Moria. First, I grabbed a big slab of expanded polystyrene, cut it down to size, and then slapped down some green structural expanded poly to get that height just slightly lower than the height of the adjoining street, and then I glued and skewered that all in place and prepared to lay down the foundation around our very first building. Just like the last board, we'll be doing some really detailed and high quality stonework flooring by using Geek Gaming modeling compound, a plaster and cellulose fiber blend usually used for landforming, but when you roll it out with a textured roller, you get an incredibly realistic finish that is textured, it weathers and cracks perfectly, and it just looks like aged flagstones. I applied a thin layer all over the terrace, choosing to lay the texture over the whole surface in case I decide to swap the buildings around in the future, extra variation and playability, and then just before the layer fully dried, I cut around the edge and glued in a foam strip, which I then textured with a foam pattern to give the edge of the compound some protection. Then it is with great pleasure I can reveal the almighty Shelter of Araphant by Anders Hobbies.
North of Gondor and west of the Misty Mountains once lay the Kingdom of Arnor. While it was a great and powerful land, through infighting and a devastating war with Angmar, the kingdom fell, and many who survived fled south to Gondor. And so a shelter was built in Minas Tirith to house and support these refugees of war. This house was named after Araphant, one of the last Arnorian kings. Years passed, and the fall of Arnor faded from history to legend, but there will always be those in need of help. And so now the House of Araphant is a home for all those in need, be they the homeless, poor, or simply strangers to the land. With soft beds and hot food, all are welcome in this place of hope.
Well, Anders takes the award for our very first fully interiored building here in Tubatown, and what an absolute beast. I love the detail and the use of Gondorian forms, especially the spiral stairwell that creates like a little tower on one side and the overhanging medieval style toilet. Just epic stuff. What a start, what a start. It's the perfect height up there on the terrace as well to pop up just above the walls with perfect clearance for the window to get a little view out of the top and over the Pelennor. With the plinth in place, it's time to talk about the outer wall. Now, in our last video, we carved a whole section of outer wall using a massive curved template, but of course we already have about another 3 meters of loose wall pieces, and with the insane time crunch to get this board built before I leave it all behind to move to New Zealand, I decided to make this next portion of the board using a combination of those pieces myself and community contributor Charlie Moreno had already made at the beginning of the project. There are entire build guides and free templates for these pieces linked up above if you'd like to see the full process or even make some for yourself, but it's essentially a whole lot of super labor intensive carving that yields 4 different styles of pieces: straight walls, a redoubt or strong point, the big tower bastions, and then some small angled wedges. I picked a combination of these pieces that accurately represented the spacing between the redoubts and the towers as seen in the film miniature and approximated the curve of the wall nicely. I absolutely love the bastion. I'm so happy with how screen accurate it is, and it's just so damn tall. But right behind this imposing pillar of stone is another lofty structure, the second mighty Tubatown building, the fabled Gondorian Archive by Narb Makes.
The Archives of Minas Tirith is a place of great knowledge and history. Located in the heart of the city, the vast towering spires, built of white stone, reach towards the sky. Inside, the shelves are filled with countless scrolls and books, chronicling the history of Middle-earth and the deeds of the great kings and heroes of old. It was here that Gandalf the Grey spent long hours poring over dusty tomes, searching for any clue that might shed light on the mystery of the One Ring and the true nature of its maker, the Dark Lord Sauron.
What the actual Narb is an insane crafter, but this beast just blew me away. The scale and the intricacy of the build is simply breathtaking. From the various architectural stylings accenting every facet of the structure to the bookshelves filled with detailed archives of Gondor. It's also a fantastic footprint shape with lots of little cutaways and protrusions, which makes it super interesting piece to game around, and it leaves plenty of room for streets to wind around it. But as it backs up against the outer wall, we do need to join that wall to our upper terrace and the lower level that Narb's building will be placed upon. This is of course a massive difference in height, but luckily in early 2021, in the very first videos on this project that really blew up, we made a series of pretty intense stairwells and then made some of the most ridiculous disaster-fraught silicon molds that allowed me to duplicate those pieces en masse. I sculpted 2 different types of stairs and cast 4 of type A and 3 of type B. Longtime viewers will remember that we already used 1 of each in the upper sections of Tubatown, and I need to save 1 of each stairwell and 1 block foundation that we molded to operate as a standalone stairwell system that can be placed anywhere along the wall in the rest of the more modular board. So that leaves us with 2 plinths, 2 part A's and 1 part B that we can now use for this board. Now, to secure those pieces, I actually mounted magnets into the bottom of each stairwell, and that of course led to the question, magnets, where do I find them? Well, look no further than the magnetbaron.com, your DIY super magnet home. I've been doing loads of magnetization lately for the staggering amount of Horus Heresy vehicles drowning my studio, and super strong magnets designed for wargaming are an absolute god emperor send. The magnetbaron.com have a huge range of wargaming magnets, including specific kits for notoriously difficult to magnetize models, magnetized movement trays, and even magnetized collapsible flight stands for that epic wargaming travel experience. I challenge you to find a better feeling in all of wargaming than the pure bliss of this moment. Magnetic perfection. Oh, that is a strong magnet. Seriously, I have used a lot of magnets over the years, from cheap stuff from eBay, China, from hobby stores, and nothing has ever come close to the strength and quality of Constantine's magnets from the Magnet Baron. I was especially blown away by the ridiculous Titan magnet kit that you guys can see me here using on my Warlord. I also used it on my Reaver Titan. You'll see the journey of these guys coming to life in a few weeks, but that is a lot of heavy resin, but the
magnets are so powerful, I'm not even remotely nervous that my Titan's gonna drop an arm or a weapon or split apart at the middle.
So to score some boss wargaming magnets for all your army needs, hit up themagnabaron.com, link down in the description. And remember guys, support the sponsors that support me. It is killer for the channel, it helps so much. And Constantine from the Magna Baron is a proper legend.
From themagnabaron.com.
So definitely go and show him some love. Alright guys, let's get back to the battle. Here on the outer wall, I decided to use a plinth and one of our part A's to join the wall to that lower terrace we just made for Ander's building, and then of course, we need some way to get down from the terrace to the lower level. So I repurposed an old bridge element from the original Osgiliath board and hacked it apart till it was about the right height, and then pulled off the battlements and gave it a big old stone texture with modeling compound and a textured roller, just like the platform earlier, and I let that dry just until it was enough to trim down those sides, and then I could remount the battlements, as well as adding foam edging to the top and the bottom to keep that compound protected, and then I quickly blended that all together with some grout and scenic sealant. Then, with our lower level accessed, it's time to start planning for the main space of streets, and there is no better centerpiece to stand tall across the road from Narb's Gondorian Archive than the mighty first level Strategium by Nat1 Videos.
The lower level of the Strategium is one of the most iconic structures upon the Lambright Street, and in wartime, one of the most significant. This towering spire houses several council chambers where meetings of garrison commanders can be held in a location that is close to the outermost defences of the city itself, enabling the lords in charge to receive precious intel from outriders before they make the long journey up to the citadel. Close to the second gate, it even affords the kings and stewards a forward command post in the lowest level if they wish to lead the defence of the White City in person, that can quickly be abandoned and safe retreat made to the upper levels should the outer wall become overrun.
LED lighting. Are you serious, Mikey? This is amazing. These guys are really upping the ante here. If there's like ever a part 3 for this collab, which I'm not thinking there will be, but if there is, I'm expecting people to just send me like entire city blocks at this rate. Absolutely stunning. The archways, the reduction in cross-section to build up towards the dome, what a piece of art. But with the Lambright Street winding down past Ander's dwelling in between Nat1 Video Strategium and Narb's Archive, we now need to join the upper portion of the Tubatown board to the lower half via the street which runs along the inside of the inner wall of the second level that goes down past Eric's Hobby Workshop's Crafting Guild and then past the top of MS Paint's leadworking warehouse. Oh my god, so many buildings to keep track of. I did think about just capping this off like a little balcony, but I realized that it would be better for gameplay to reduce the bottleneck on the Lambright Street by using some of our remaining stairwell pieces to go from the very bottom all the way up to this top city. But to keep it sitting flush with the inner wall, we're left with some dead space around the base of the terrace. So I carved up a little extension to that upper terrace we crafted earlier, taking it over the center line where the board joins to the stairwell plinth, which also created a nice little space for a building that I wasn't planning on, and the perfect footprint to slot in there is the structure by LB from MicroForgeMinis. Now, many of you may remember LB from MicroForge as he has been a supporter of this project for a long time. He was the amazing human who designed a whole bunch of building templates for us, which a lot of people from all around the world have used to build their own buildings, including several of the YouTubers who have been part of Tubatown, which have all been for free up on my website, Zorpazorp.com. And now LB has gone one step further and designed one of the coolest products in the wargaming space I've ever seen, a set of archways, doors, and griblies called Slice and Slot. These are gorgeous Roman-style archways and door elements that slide right onto a sheet of 10mm foam. I'm going to use these a whole lot more in a few weeks to build some more buildings for the second level, but for now they are perfect for spicing up this little stone fascia that I carved to cover the last portion of exposed polystyrene on the side of the upper terrace. They are so damn easy to use. You just roughly slice out an archway and then slot in a nice detailed resin piece. Boom! Amazing details for windows or doorways. And the Roman aesthetic with a coat of white paint is perfection for Minas Tirith. Before we glue the fascia onto the foam, I had to cut out a few holes into that polystyrene where the windows are, and then paint the inside with a dark grey to make it look like a dark building interior, and then I mounted the fascia and then skewered the foam plinth expansion into place, and man, it just looks so good. I cannot wait to see how these work on a larger scale for actual buildings. If only Elby from MicroForgeMinis had made a building as well.
Lamprite Street is the centre of commerce in Minas Tirith, and between the many workshops and warehouses are small dwellings of the wealthier merchants who want to be close to the hub of trade. And this building belongs to a proud merchant who amassed vast wealth trading silks in Harrendor, a southern fief that has now become a frontier of war. With the rise of the Haradrim, the fortress city of Glamagarth has come under siege, and supply lines have been cut. And now this house has since fallen on hard times, with the owner discreetly selling many of his prized possessions to maintain his illustrious dwelling and his position within the trading guild.
Man, I love this building. Such classic Gondor at its finest. I cannot wait to make some more buildings armed with all the slice and slot gribblies. Alby's got a Kickstarter going for these boys on the 17th of January where you can pick up the STL files, physical prints like these, and even sheets of foam to go with them. All of those details are down in the description. And if you want to check out Alby's building in more detail, check out his Instagram, which is linked below, as he is the only Instagrammer who's joined us today, so he doesn't have a YouTube video. MicroForgeMinis on Instagram. Man, this city is coming to life, but there is one pretty obvious omission down here on the bottom level. I can still see a lot of green structural foam, so I marked up some elements that are the permanent aspect for the board and then removed all of the scatter pieces and set about laying down a whole heap of modeling compound. This was the exact same process as before, but we have a few new considerations. I decided that for Narb and Nat1 Videos buildings, I wouldn't build them foundations that would lock them into going in a certain place, so I just textured the whole flat surface so we can move them and other buildings around and change the layout of this lower level just like a normal board with scatter terrain. If you're new around here and you're into crazy scenery builds in Middle-earth 40k and beyond, make sure you smash that subscribe button down below because mental massive scenery is my jam here on Zorpazorp, and if you think this build is crazy, you should see what's coming in 2022. You guys may have noticed that a huge section up the back is marked second wall. For the time being, I'm just going to leave this untouched, as there should be a continuation of the stonework coming down from the upper level here, but I know I'm not going to kind of fully build that out to sort of allow for good access and playability for this part of the board, so I don't know what I'll do quite yet, but that is a future Locky problem. With the compound down, I cut a whole bunch of trim around the edging to keep it all protected, and cut in all of the permanent structures and gave them some trim as well, and then with the boring texture complete, it's time to reveal something a little more exciting. The final building for this part of the board, although not the final building for today, the amazing Adventurer's Bazaar by Dave from Kitbash Box.
An adventurer, a dealer, and purveyor of rare items and objects of power from the many scattered battlefields of Middle-earth, where stories mixed with superstition make some people believe that these objects will bring them fortune and status. He is himself trading to move himself up into the highest levels of Minas Tirith, among the power and influence he believes he was born to be among. Where battles are fought, the caster is wrought on land, in barrows, and foul dark hallows.
Davey from Kitbash Box busting out the verse. Tolkien himself would be proud. And man, what a sick build, rich with stunning detail, which I might add Davey sculpted all himself. All of these stunning little details, the archways, the facade with the brickwork, the stairways, and even the little door handles Davey designed and printed and worked into the build. In terms of pure detail, this might be the most intricate piece in the city so far. Huge props, dude. And let's all take a moment to appreciate that the lad who lives here is basically Gondor's Indiana Jones. We should clearly write this guy a profile and get him into a Battle Company's campaign as an NPC. Now, there is actually one last building to build into the city, a stunning piece by the very talented Neil from Real Terrain Hobbies, and I've got a very special place for it here in Tubertown. You'll notice there isn't a great deal of room left down here on the first level, but there is somewhere on this board that has been waiting for a building for a long time. But first, it's time to set up this board properly. We've got the Kitbash Box Adventurer's Bazaar, Narb makes Gondorian Archive, Nat1 Video Strategium, the MicroForgeMinis Merchant House, Anders Hobbies Shelter of Araphant, the Broadsword Wargaming Blacksmith, the Lead Workers Warehouse by MS Paints, Eric's Hobby Workshop's Crafting Guild, the Rackrex Art Emporium, the Beard Clipper Barber, Benji Hobbies Pet Emporium, and now to top it all off, here behind the second gate, as the very first building to inhabit the second level of the city, the almighty Real Terrain Hobbies Tavern.
Well, this just wouldn't be a Tubatown collab if someone's building didn't get lost in the post.
Well, it happened to Ollie from Broadsword last year, and this time the victim of the mighty Christmas post bottlenecks is the incredible Neil from Real Terrain Hobbies.
Hey guys, Neil here with Real Terrain Hobbies.
So go and check out his vid to see it more in detail, and fear not, we will be adding it to the board in the next Minas Tirith update, which will be in just a few weeks, because there is still so much to do to this absolute beast. This project is over 3 years old, and this specific collab has been in the works since December of 2021, and it's simply staggering to me to finally see it all here on the tabletop. I've still got to paint my portion of this part of the city and add all the sexy details of city life, and then in the coming weeks we'll finally get to see a really hectic battle report played across this new double Tubatown. I cannot stress enough how thankful I am to the amazing tubers and one Instagrammer who have worked with me on this project. Please, please, please go down to the pinned comment and check out the playlist with all their videos as well as LB stuff on Instagram. They each had an amazing journey crafting their epic contributions to the city, and watching the buildings come together is just an awesome experience. I'm actually quite excited to see what the hell Neil's building actually looks like. Fingers crossed Neil's video isn't the only evidence we get that it ever existed. And how about Mikey's and Narb's towering masterpieces? Just staggering. Not to mention Kit Bashbox, MicroForgeMinis and Anders, and everyone from the first collab as well. I love you guys so much, and there's a couple of tubers here who are just absolutely tiny and they deserve to be so much bigger, so please go and check out everyone's videos in the playlist. To my wonderful fellowship, thank you so much for your craft, for your love and your patience. This video has been delayed no more than 17 times due to a million different things, but we have finally made it. The beacons of Zorpazorp were lit, and YouTube answered.